Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I want to thank you for making some time for this month's Stop the Busyness webinar. Today, we are looking all about morning routines. How can we maximize our mornings? How can we set ourselves up for a great day by building the ultimate morning routine? Excited to hear from you, excited to hear what you have to say as we look at how we can build the very best morning. Some of the things that we are going to cover in today's webinar. Why is the first 2 hours of the day the most important? Why should we look at how we wake up in the morning, how we spend our first 2 hours, and can we make them even better so we can set ourselves up for an extra productive day? A super effective morning routine. Do you have a great routine right now, or would you like to revise the way you start your mornings? We're going to look at what are some of the key components that you should include in your morning routine. And lastly, I'm going to show you a very, very helpful technique to help you wake up early and to never, or at least almost never, hit the snooze button again. It's simpler than you think, but stick around for this technique to help you get up and start your day when you want to and never hit that dreaded snooze button again. My name is Scott Friesen, and I am the founder of Simpletivity Training and Consulting. And I refer to myself as a busyness killer. Now, what is a busyness killer? Well, I feel strongly that it is busyness or busy work that kills our productivity. That's what hampers us from doing our best work, from doing our most effective work. So I do my best to help others be more productive and not just busy. Remember, anyone can be busy. You don't need experience or education to be a busy individual. I don't want you to be just a busy individual. I want you to be a productive individual. And that's really what Simpletivity is all about. As always, I welcome your questions and comments as a part of today's webinar. I'd encourage you to use the live chat feature here on YouTube to ask your questions, share your comments. You can also use the hashtag #StopTheBusy on Twitter. I'll reserve some time at the end of today's webinar to answer as many questions as I can, but you can feel free to add additional comments here on YouTube or continue to use that hashtag on Twitter. I will review them and do my best to answer them after today's webinar. So where do we begin when it comes to mornings? Well, I want to share a story from my personal life, and it starts with a murder. A murder of crows, that is. My story begins about 10 years ago when I was living in a part of Vancouver which has a very high concentration of crows. Now, I don't know all the scientific or geographic details as to why this area attracts thousands and thousands of crows from all over the area. But if you live in this particular part of Vancouver, you get very familiar to seeing an awful lot of crows and also hearing an awful lot of crows. So what does this have to do with mornings? What does this have to do with my morning? Well, at the time, I had set my morning alarm for about 6:30 a.m. That was the time I had set. It would give me just enough time to shower, shave, have some breakfast, and then I was on my way out the door, on my way to my office, on my way to work. However, I found that I was rarely being stirred by my alarm. I was rarely being woken up in the morning at 6:30 a.m. Instead, this is what I would hear bright and early. Caw, caw. Yes, that's right. Crows outside my window, or at least in the neighborhood, would stir me from my slumber and wake me up a half hour before my alarm, 45 minutes, sometimes a full hour or more before my alarm was set. Now, it was the summertime, so we kept our windows open. We tried to get a nice cool breeze during those hot summer nights. So it was really hard to ignore this morning ritual of the crows. And regularly, on a frequent basis, it was the crows that were waking me up long before my alarm would go off. Well, there was another factor that was affecting my mornings, affecting my alarm, and that was my two young children. At the time, I had children aged 3 and 1 years of age, and they also were early risers. And on many days, they would arise before 6:30, give me a little poke on the back, or maybe I'd hear a small cry coming from the crib of my 1-year-old, and they were starting to wake me up before 6:30 a.m. So on most days, it was one or the other. It was either the crows cawing outside my window, or it was my own young children who seemed to have a very early tendency to arise in the morning, and that would stir me from my slumber as well. And I noticed that I was waking up angry. I was waking up agitated. Right? Sometimes I would only be woken up about a mere 10 or 15 minutes before my alarm, but my mind was thinking, I could have had 10 more minutes of sleep. I was waking up in somewhat of an angry or an agitated state. Well, after this went on for a few months, I said to myself, I need to make a change. I need to wake up in a more positive frame of mind, because this is negatively affecting the rest of my day. I said to myself, I need to wake up on my own terms. No longer do I want to be stirred by the crows, by Mother Nature, nor my own offspring, my own children. I want to wake up when I want to wake up. So I sat down at my computer, I went to a weather website, and I wanted to find out what is the earliest that the sun rises in Vancouver in the middle of summer. What's the earliest that the sun rises here? And I discovered that in the middle of summer, the sun rises at about 5:03 a.m. So right then and there, I decided, starting the next morning, I would wake up at 5 a.m. No longer would I let those crows, who were also stirred by the sunrise, they were also stirred by that bright light. That's when they would typically start, or shortly thereafter, start their crowing. No longer was I going to be interrupted by the crows or my own children. I was going to wake up on my own terms. And since that time, I have continued to regularly wake up at 5 a.m., not only in the summer, but throughout the fall and winter months as well. And I have learned a great deal, and it has greatly enhanced my productivity and also my outlook for my day by waking up early and adjusting the way that I start my day out. Now, 5 a.m. may not be for everyone, and I don't certainly encourage everyone to wake up quite that early. But I hope to convince you today why you should pay special attention to your morning routine and make the most out of those first few hours. So why? Why is the first 2 hours of our day so important? Why should you take some time, either later today or this week, to review your own morning routine? Well, a couple of key reasons. Number one, you have much greater control in the morning than other parts of your day. I want you to think about your typical weekday or your typical workday. In your waking hours, which part of that day do you have the most control over? And I would assume in most cases, it's the first few hours after you get up, and it's the last few hours before you retire to bed. It's the start and the finish of your day. It's sort of the bookends of your day. But everything else in between seems to be affected by many other people. You have your work responsibilities, you have family and social responsibilities, you have meetings that are scheduled, you have notifications and phone calls that you need to attend to. You're often pulled in many other directions in other parts of your day. It's the first part and the last part that you have much greater control over. And so that's a fantastic way to craft the ultimate morning routine. In the first part of your day, you are also typically at your freshest. You have a fresh mind and you haven't been affected by the noise. Now, what do I mean by the noise? I mean the noise of the day or the distortion of the day. You have yet to dive into your email inbox. You have yet to have that really difficult meeting. You have yet to have that person surprise you and cut you off in traffic. You have yet to have that encounter with a rude clerk at the grocery store. Whatever it is, you have not yet been affected by those things. So when you're fresh, when your mind is clearest, you want to make the best use of it. You want to set yourself up and actually do some very productive work in the first few hours of your day. And speaking of work, you can work on some of your most important tasks or your most important projects without distractions. If you focus on something that is really valuable to you at 7 a.m., you can almost guarantee that no one is going to be texting you at that time of day. You're probably receiving very few emails at that time of day. The chances of you receiving a phone call at that time is very, very slim. So it's a great time to focus on activities or work that are very important to you so you can do it without distractions. Great thing to fit in the first 2 hours of your day. And lastly, but maybe the most important on this short list, is a productive morning sets you up for a productive day. There is something energizing about getting important things done first thing in the morning and how that can boost your energy levels, how that can boost your productivity through the remainder of that morning and through the rest of the day. I can't tell you how satisfying it is to sit down for breakfast and realize that I have accomplished more than many people will accomplish before lunch on that very same day. So I've set my priorities, I've set the few things that I want to accomplish and get done. I can do it without distractions. I can do it without being affected by the noise of the day. And I can do it because I have a lot greater control. So having that productive morning, starting with a productive boost, can transform and stay with you throughout the rest of the day. So, speaking of morning routines, how do we create a super effective morning routine? How can we maximize that first hour or perhaps those first 2 hours of our day? Well, there are a few key components, a few key areas that I notice the most successful and the most productive people include in each of their mornings. And it all involves the color red. No, I don't mean that they put on a red shirt, and I don't mean that they put on a pair of red socks. Red is an acronym for 3 things to make your morning routine as productive and effective as possible. The first letter R stands for reading. Reading something uplifting or reading something positive to start your day. Now, you don't necessarily need to start with reading first thing, but it is of great value to include some positive reading as a part of your morning routine. It could be a book, it could be a blog article, it could be something from your industry, something that interests you. It could be fiction, it could be nonfiction. There's almost no limit as to what you choose to read first thing in the morning. Probably the only thing I would recommend staying away from is the news. I think we can probably agree that the majority of news articles or news items are not necessarily positive and uplifting. Starting your day reading about murders or tragedies or differing political opinions is maybe not the most uplifting way to start your day. But find something that interests you, find something that inspires you, and spend as little as 10, maybe just 15 minutes reading something to influence and impact the rest of your day. Maybe it's something pertaining to your industry, pertaining to your career or your chosen field of expertise. Maybe there's a journal or a website that you get some insightful articles from. So really don't limit yourself as to what you can read, but find some time to read something positive and uplifting in the morning. The E in red stands for exercise. Now, we know how valuable exercise is to our bodies. We know that it prolongs life. It helps us to avoid and reduce our chances of gaining certain diseases and other medical problems and so forth. But of course, exercise does more than just physical benefits. It also gives us mental benefits. Exercise helps us to stimulate both our body and our mind. Now, if you're not already on some type of exercise routine, the morning can be a great place to start. We know how important it is, so put it first thing on the list. Go out for a short jog or a short bike ride. Are you close enough to your gym that you can make a visit there? There are many different and wonderful apps that you can download that will give you a fitness routine that you can do in the comfort of your own home. They don't require any weights. They just use body resistance. There's really no excuse to find some type of exercise that you can include in your morning. But the reason why I encourage you to do it first thing in the morning is to gain the mental benefits of exercise. By exercising, by sweating a little bit first thing in the morning, this also stimulates your mind, which can help you with problem solving. It can help you with your cognitive thinking. It can help you break down complex issues and set you up for a fantastic day. Even if you are involved in a regular exercise routine that happens in the afternoon or the evening, I would ask you to consider switching it to the morning. And here's why. As I ask people, those who have a visit to the gym scheduled for 4 p.m. in the afternoon, or they go for an evening run at 7 p.m., many of them will admit that after a hard day or after a day with lots of noise and lots of meetings and so forth, it's often the first thing to be deferred or just to not happen altogether. That exercise later in the day, it's so much easier to put it off or say, you know what, I'll get to the gym tomorrow, just not tonight. By putting exercise first thing, by including it in your morning routine, you can't put it off, or at least it's much harder to put it off. And you reap those benefits of exercising both body and mind. So make time for exercise. The last component that I want you to include in your morning routine, the D in red, may sound simple, but it will have an amazing impact on the rest of your day, and that is doing. And when I say doing, I mean doing actual work. Focusing time on some actual projects or your most important tasks early in the morning. So this could be related to your work, what you get paid to do. Maybe it's an important project, an important personal project that you want to spend time on. Whatever it is, doing actual valuable work. Things that you can do without distraction, things that you can do when you have a fresh mind. I don't think it's surprising that the world's best-selling and most critically acclaimed authors do most of their writing in the morning. If you read the biographies or interviews with some of the world's most famous authors, the majority of them spend or block off 4 hours of their day in the morning, some of them quite early, to do their writing. And again, like we said before, you're fresh. You haven't been affected by the rest of your day. You can focus that energy, focus your mental energy on some more complex and important problems. Now, I highly recommend that email is not a part of your doing. Your doing should be focused on your most important work, and email most times is not most important, or it shouldn't be the most important thing on your list. Unless you have a very, very heavy backlog, try to avoid your inbox and work on your most important project or your most important to-dos. So be sure to include red in your morning routine. Include some positive, uplifting reading. Make sure to include some exercise. Sweat a little bit. It doesn't have to be a full hour. You can just do a quick 15 or 20-minute routine, but getting your heart rate up can have an amazing effect on the rest of your day. And also spend a little bit of time doing. Like I said before, it can be extremely satisfying to getting to the breakfast table or getting to your office later in the day, knowing that you've already had a jump start on your work, a jump start on your most important work. Lastly, I promised I would give you a tip to help you wake up earlier, and perhaps more importantly, to do it without hitting the snooze button. I have so many people come to me and say, Scott, I recognize the importance of waking up earlier. I would really like to wake up earlier in the morning, but I just don't know how to do it. I've tried before, but I get into my old routines and I hit that snooze button and I hit that snooze button again. And I'm not up until I hit it probably at least 3 times. In fact, I'm sure there's some of you on this call who are very familiar with that. Even though you've set your alarm, let's say for 6:30, you have built into your morning that you don't actually get up out of bed until 7 a.m. after you've hit the snooze button 3 or 4 times. Well, what you may not recognize is how damaging hitting snooze can be for your body. In fact, research shows that you are much better off getting up when the alarm first sounds than ever hitting snooze again. Now, here's why. When we hit snooze on our alarm, our body attempts to go back into a deep sleep. And with 10 minutes being the default snooze time, our bodies get quite close to approaching that deeper sleep when beep, 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 or maybe it's more popular music on your alarm, wakes you up again. That is precisely why you are often more groggy, you are more fatigued after the snooze button goes off compared to when the initial alarm went off. So I want to give you a technique to help you to never hit snooze again and wake up when that alarm first goes off. Here's the problem as I see it. Most of us put our alarms right next to our bed, right within arm's reach of our pillow. And that would seem to make sense. When something is beeping or when your morning music is going off, you want to be able to reach over and turn it off. But by making it so convenient, we turn it off or we hit the snooze button and then we just roll back over and go back to sleep or lounge around in bed. So to combat this problem, here is what I want you to do. I want you to place your alarm clock or your smartphone, which many of us use as an alarm, 5 feet away. That's 5 feet away from your pillow. Now, I don't care if you're an NBA basketball player. I don't care if you stand 7 foot 3 inches tall. I know that your arms are not 5 feet in length. That's right. By putting your alarm 5 feet away, it forces you to get up, out of bed, stand on your own 2 feet, and just take a few steps for you to reach that alarm to shut it off. Now, I cannot guarantee that you will not return to your bed at that point, but I will tell you that it drastically reduces the odds of you doing so. There is something about sitting up, standing up on your own 2 feet, taking a few steps that will encourage you and your body to remain awake. So if you never want to hit the snooze button again, place your smartphone, if that's what you use for your alarm, or place your clock, radio, whatever you use to wake up in the morning, and place it 5 feet away from your pillow. Or bathroom. Are you that close to a bathroom in the morning? Could you place your alarm there? How about your active gear or your exercise clothing? If you're going to fit in exercise in your morning routine, perhaps place that beside your alarm, which is 5 feet away. Another piece of inspiration to help you get going on your day and avoid the chances of you returning to your bed. So, in recap, I don't want you to just make good use. I want you to make great use of the first 2 hours of your day. Treasure that time. You have a lot more control. You can customize what you do in that first part of your day, especially if you wake up a little bit earlier. Make great use of the first 2 hours of the day. I want you to include red in your morning routine. I want you to include reading, exercise, and doing something important. I don't mean doing social media. I don't mean doing Netflix. I mean doing something really valuable, something that is important to you. Fit in red as a part of your morning routine. And there's no better way to start your morning than by getting up out of bed right away and never hitting the snooze button. So place your alarm 5 feet away so you can get up right away. No longer do you need to hit snooze again and feel that groggy feeling after being stirred 10 minutes and then another 10 minutes. Get up right away. Put your alarm 5 feet away. So I would love to hear from you. If you haven't submitted a question yet, I would encourage you to do so here using the live chat function on YouTube. And you can also use the hashtag #StopTheBusy. So a couple of early questions that I see here coming in. The first one is, Scott, but what if I'm a night owl? Can I really adjust my schedule to be an early bird or to wake up early? Great question. You know, we use those terms, night owl and early bird, or we've heard of those terms for many, many years. The interesting thing is that there is very little science to back up the notion that we are pre-programmed to be a night owl or to be an early bird. Now, I recognize there are a number of you who like to stay up late and enjoy staying up late. And then there are some of us who enjoy waking up quite early. But what I find really interesting is that when I pry a little further into the activities of night owls, I find it's the minority that are doing actual work or worthwhile activities. The majority of night owls are spending time watching entertainment or maybe posting things with friends on social media, binge watching Netflix or playing video games late into the evening. They're not actually doing things to either better themselves, better their health, or better their careers. So, although there are many people who enjoy that lifestyle, and that can be a nice way to wind down and enjoy the rest of your day, research would tell us that as long as we are getting adequate enough sleep, as long as we're getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep, we can adjust our sleep schedules. We can adjust our waking times, our personal timeline. You can adjust and wake up earlier if you desire to do so. It may not happen overnight, but it certainly can be changed. It certainly can be altered. And I'm a really good example of that. For most of my 20s, I stayed up very, very late. I enjoyed staying up late. In fact, if I could have it my way, I'd stay up very late and wake up very early. But I can't have both ways. I made the switch. It took me probably a good 2 weeks to get into that pattern, but you can make such a switch yourself. Another question here is, what about listening to audiobooks or podcasts while I travel to work? Does that count as the reading component of the morning routine? Most definitely. Audiobooks and podcasts are a great way to consume reading materials and to consume new ideas. So it's especially effective if you commute, right? If you're stuck in traffic, if you drive yourself, or if you take a train or a bus to get to your office, audiobooks and podcasts are a great way. And because it's a part of your commute, it happens before you really start your work. So a fantastic way to start your day. Even if you work remotely, if you work from home, listening to audiobooks and podcasts can be a great way to include that reading component into your morning. Now, I want to leave you with one more question, and that is this: do you want to be more productive? If your answer is yes, I would encourage you to visit the simpletivity.com website. You will find a number of resources, a number of guides to help you be more productive and combat the cult of busyness. And if you would like new videos to help you be at your productive best, I would invite you to subscribe to the Simpletivity YouTube channel. There is a new video each and every week to help you stay productive. Some are technology tips, some are tips like today, how we can increase our health and better our body and mind to have a more productive day. Better ways to be more productive and to manage our time better on the Simpletivity YouTube channel. I want to thank you for joining me today. I encourage you to combat and stop the busyness, because being too busy isn't productive. Thank you again, and until next time, it's very simple.